another episode of the Square and Compass podcast. And it's nice to actually be doing another episode for a long time. I'm just going to give this as a little plug for myself. The last couple months or so, I've really been focusing, or we've been really focusing on written content. We published a lot of articles through Medium, as well as a lot of content on some of our different social media channels, which is great, but it's nice to get back finally to the podcast format. So thank you so much. We have two members. We wanted to have a third, but unfortunately there were some technical difficulties. Two members of the Grand Lodge of Canada, the province of Ontario's Cornerstone Committee. We have got brothers Graham Tate and Fred Peters. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us, Cameron.
So, I am a member of two Cornerstone Lodges, hoping next year to make it three Cornerstone Lodges. I remember when the Cornerstone program first was implemented, and the discussions around it and what it meant. And to see from when it was first implemented to now, it's really, really been impressive. But even more so, just in the last year or so, I had you guys on the podcast a year ago, and we talked about the Cornerstone program there and the changes that it was going through. Now it's really exciting because we get a chance to talk about the actual mechanics of the Cornerstone program, meaning how a lodge can go about applying the new system through the Ontario website. But before we get into those specific mechanics, and this question is for either of you, but perhaps Graham, you want to take this one as kind of the Cornerstone chair. Just what has the response been like since even our last podcast? What's the participation been like? What are you seeing from lodges in terms of their excitement or their interest in the Cornerstone program?
So, thanks for that question, Cameron. Where we're at the moment is when you consider where the lodges were pre-COVID, and there was a good amount of lodges involved in a Cornerstone at that time. We are now at a point where we are equal, if not superseding that number. So participation is slowly growing. Lodges have come back into working fully after COVID, and they're beginning to get themselves involved in the whole process. I can tell you that just from a number standpoint, and these numbers are about a week or so old, and I've had some other data that I've not just filled in yet, but I'll get that in the coming days. But at the moment, there's 22 districts across the province engaged in the program. There's 7 districts who are contemplating being part of the Cornerstone. At this moment in time, there's 65 lodges, and that's probably near 70 lodges currently enrolled in Cornerstone. There's 25 lodges who are considering enrolling, and 67 who are simply not enrolled in any way. So that might be the group that we might want to be looking at, is that those 67 lodges who are not enrolled, trying to find out what we can do to get them more involved in the process. But participation at the moment is healthy, and we're looking constantly to try and improve that and get as many lodges involved as possible, because it's just a simple fact, and we've validated this through the condition of masonry when they evaluate lodges from a red, yellow, and green aspect. It's clear within those numbers that it's more likely than not that your lodge is going to be more successful while participating in Cornerstone. So there is a correlation there between Cornerstone lodges and green, healthy lodges. So that's an important thing that people need to understand. And the more lodges we can get to utilize Cornerstone in one manner or another is going to be helpful. Maybe I would like to kind of just highlight 2 things in regards to Cornerstone now. There are 2 aspects to Cornerstone as far as lodges participating in the program. One is from a designation standpoint, which means you're fully on board. You pick a start date, an end date, and you fulfill all the elements of the standards through that 2-year period. And at the end of it, hopefully you're designated as a Cornerstone Lodge. The other part of that, and this is where those 7 lodges, if you like, that are not involved at the moment, perhaps they can look at Cornerstone, the various elements, and pick various parts of those elements and try and use Cornerstone more as a working tool to just try and get the lodge engaged more. And the program, I shouldn't say program, just engaged more so that the lodge actually sees the benefit of that engagement and the sort of team building that Cornerstone puts through on the lodges. So that's where we're at the moment. Participation is good, and we'll be continuing to just work with lodges and Condition of Masonry to make sure that we get Cornerstone to the highest numbers we possibly can.
I think that I really like the emphasis that yourself, the committee, I'm on the committee too, right? The idea of a lodge doesn't necessarily, especially if it's a struggling lodge or maybe it's a smaller lodge that doesn't have the numbers necessarily. Going for a Cornerstone designation, if you've never had one before, can perhaps seem a little bit daunting of a task. And what you said and what I remember we emphasized at the Day of Masonry in Hamilton, which I had the pleasure of attending. I don't remember when it was. The time is flying.
April.
April, there you go. You don't need to. It's okay to look at Cornerstone and try to take some ideas from it and try to implement some things from those ideas. It's okay to do that without necessarily aiming for a designation on the first go around, right? You can make that effort, see how it goes, and then build on that. I had a talk with Most Worshipful Brother Cameron Bailey. I'll throw that link on there somewhere. He's a past Grand Master from the Grand Lodge of Washington, Washington State. And he was talking about he became, after being Grand Master, he became the master of a struggling lodge, or acting ritual master to call it, of a lodge that was really struggling. And we talked about one of the things that kills a lodge more so than even low numbers or low participation, you hear all these words, is a lack of optimism, is when a lodge starts to become pessimistic about its future. And one benefit, I think, of Cornerstone is it can be a way to build optimism in a lodge. If you can pick a few goals from Cornerstone, you succeed in those goals, that's a good way to start to build optimism as to what the lodge is capable of. And then that optimism can translate into material gains for the lodge year after year until it's both a strong lodge in terms of being a Cornerstone Lodge and an actual strong lodge. So I think that process of using Cornerstone to create goals and then meet those goals can be a really powerful tool to build optimism and excitement within a lodge.
Yep, Cameron, and I couldn't agree more with exactly what you've just said there. I think you outlined exactly how we hope that lodges will view Cornerstone, and not just view it as that, all in or nothing, that all-in designation, or we're simply not involved. If lodges can get involved in those various elements, like let's take for talking's sake, just one of the simple elements of just creating a visitation program with another lodge. And it's not just 2 guys going to visit our lodge. There's a number of people that you want to get. So you want, I forget the number, I think it's 5 or 7 people. You get those people involved and you get them out to visit a lodge. And it's only by getting those numbers that you feel that you've achieved something. So it's like anything. It's like anything you do in life. If you start at 2 and then you build it to 3 and you build it to 4 and build it to 5, every time you get that advancement, your optimism grows in the way that you're talking about. And we're hoping the lodges can simply just, always remember that Cornerstone is not an all-in or nothing approach. Just simply look at it as what we speak about in all the degrees as working tools. Consider Cornerstone as that working tool which will enable you to create some sort of team building within your lodge, create that optimism that you mentioned, and just see success grow from within. And that's what hope. So we push forward in that hope.
Yes.
And go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to mention, that, another way you can actually to expand on what was previously just said, having been a Cub leader for 45 years, we took the Cub program and all its requirements for instance, to earn the Blue Star, you have to do this. So as leaders, we took our Cub book and planned our years. So at the end of the year, the boys earned their star. And it was all in the Cub book. So, if you look at the Cornerstone program as a resource for program ideas, and there is a goal at the end, earning your Cornerstone designation. But, sometimes a lot of people are don't have the, maybe that particular lodge, might be struggling because they really aren't sure of some things to do within their lodge to engage the fellows in the lodge. And knowing that the Cornerstone program is a good resource, we would welcome them to come there and use it as a resource. Ideally, we want them to engage in the program to earn their Cornerstone designation. But as was said earlier, it's not the be-all end-all. A be-all end-all is to get the lodges a little more vibrant than they might feel they are. Give them program ideas. So I think the Cornerstone program is a great tool in that respect.
Yep. Cameron, if you don't mind, if I can just jump back in there again, just emphasize something that Fred is talking about here, and that is, when a lodge is struggling, it's usually because many of the people who have ran the lodge have been the key people in the lodge are maybe no longer there. They've kind of ran out of ideas, they've ran out of steam, they're kind of struggling how to make everything work again. And the one thing that Cornerstone can give us is those ideas. It's full of ideas from start to finish, full of ideas how to reinvigorate your lodge, get it to be that more vibrant lodge, and then all of that make the lodge more successful. So, when we talk about the success of a lodge, what does that really mean, right? I mean, I think it's almost subjective to whatever the lodge is, because every lodge has different ideas of what their own success is, right? Success isn't necessarily, we have degrees every single week. Every single month. We have lots of degrees, we've got lots of people coming in, but our lodge is totally stagnant. There's nothing in there. Nobody's excited about the lodge in any way. So you might have a lodge that's struggling. They've only maybe got 7 or 10 guys who are trying to make it work, but they're happy together. They're working together. They're working to the same goal, and it's a better experience. We have to create the experience within the lodge, and I think Cornerstone is one of the key components of giving that to the lodges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's interesting. Interesting you bring up success. I actually wrote something about that. To me, and I think this is something where Cornerstone can assist, the idea of a successful lodge, or I think if you want to broaden it even, the idea of just if you were to look at, say, any community in Ontario or anywhere where Freemasonry is located, right, all around the world, and you were to ask the question, right, is Freemasonry successful in that community? To me, the kind of the test that I would always use or advocate for is, how relevant is Freemasonry within that community, either to the members or the community, right? So, kind of the thought experiment I would propose is, if you snapped your fingers and the Masonic building and the Masonic Lodge in that community were to disappear, how many people's lives would be affected day to day, right? And I think the higher that number, I think the more successful you could argue the lodge is. And that doesn't necessarily just mean the members, though it can. I mean, if you have a member who, if the lodge were to disappear and the building were to disappear and that member wouldn't learn about it for years later because he never attends, you could argue it's not very relevant to him. But in the same way, the community, just to give an example, here at my home building, the Windsor Masonic Temple, one thing we do is we have areas in our building where we display artwork by local artists, and give them a chance to show off what they're doing and their artwork and promote themselves. And in some cases, people will purchase the artwork. If our building were to disappear, well, those artists would be affected. They would lose a space that they, very much appreciate. So that's a bit of a side tangent, although I do think it can assist with Cornerstone or help us talk about Cornerstone, because in some ways, one of the purposes of Cornerstone is creating a lodge experience or creating a lodge that is relevant to its membership and something that members feel connected to and would feel affected if it were to cease to exist. But the relevance of Freemasonry in communities, I think, is a really good test. I've used this example a few times. And now I can't even think of the song, but there's all sorts of songs and stuff like pop culture songs that reference Masonic lodges or Masonic buildings. Just not the artists weren't Masons. It was just as a part of the community that they would go to for dances or for auctions. Like, it was a place where you go for vaccination clinics and stuff. So I think just when you talk about what is a successful lodge, my answer lately has been, the more relevant a lodge is to its community and its membership, the more successful you could argue it is.
Absolutely.
Yep, I don't think we can argue against that in any way.
No.
Yeah, good points.
So go ahead.
No, on you go.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, now I think we had our conversation before, and I'll link to that as well. And that was before a lot of exciting changes took place in Ontario Freemasonry. I'm particularly referring to the new site, Ontario Masons, which, as a secretary, and I spoke about this with Richard Kaufman on the podcast. As a secretary, I'm very impressed with the new as a ambulance goes driving by. I've been very impressed with the new system. Whether it's all the administrative tasks the secretary has to do, you can now do it online. You're not sending mail back and forth, which I think is not only I think that's environmentally awesome. It's so much more convenient for me. But also, the system is now allows for the much easier time applying for Cornerstone status. It's just another way, or even reviewing Cornerstone Program and looking at the worksheets, right? It's so much easier than it was 5, 7, 10 years ago. So I understand Fred has the documents ready, and he's going to share his screen and kind of take us through the process of either applying for Cornerstone designation with the new Ontario Mason site, or just reviewing it. So if you don't think you're ready to apply, but you want to review the program, where you can go about doing that. And I do want to talk about, just before I get into that, and Fred, I'll throw this one to you. You know, I mentioned I'm a secretary of a lodge, but any Mason can check out these forms, right? And learn more about the Cornerstone program. You don't have to be a secretary or a master or an administrator to check these out.
No, absolutely not. Any Mason, it is, wide open once you go to the Ontario Mason site. Can I show you how easy it is?
By all means.
Thank you. So I'm just going to take control of the meeting. So I'm going to go to excuse me. I'm just going to show, this is my Google bar. So I'm just going to type in on Ontario Masons. Oops, pardon my thumbs. Ontario Masons, something as simple as that. And we come into the Grand Lodge. We see there in Google. I'm going to take us to, you can see that? Everybody can see? Okay, so I'm going to the Grand Lodge website. Now, you can't get much more easier than Ontario Masons to take you to that Google page. So then we're going to go up to members, and down on the membership pillar, where we're going to go, and we'll go over to Cornerstone, and we click on Cornerstone, and it takes us to all the documents available to Cornerstone. So there are listings of lodges that were Cornerstone in the past. And if we look at the things that we're going to talk about today, is a Cornerstone report card package. And for those of you who are not familiar with the various areas of Cornerstone, it's divided down into 3 areas: mandatory, major, and basic. And I liken the division, for instance, in mandatory, there's kind of a larger scope on some of those. And we'll look at it, but within the mandatory workbook, there's 4 listed, and you only have to pick 1. Now within major, a lot of it is more to the running of the lodge, so to speak. And then in basic, it's got a lot of standards with a fraternal aspect to them. So, and then the Cornerstone report card is where you record all your Cornerstone achievements. Now, I'm just going to open up the major workbook here, and I'm going to download it. I've got it on my computer, but I thought, well, let's just download it here to show you, how easy it is. And so it should. So here we have 4.0 major standards qualifications. 5 of 15 are required. So it says there you can take in conjunction with your report card, which is where you'll record all the stuff. Now, I just want to say, I preface this with, there's standards that have components that you need to complete in year 1 and year 2 of your 2-year cycle. That's all that is. It's just reminding you that, hey, before year 1 is over, you have to do this and then move on to year 2. So you can submit it to your deputy grand master or district deputy, and in year 1 and then in year 2. So as you're going through it, these are the major standards. And so as a lodge, you can sit down and you can either photocopy this, or ideally, have a projector and screen there. So with your GP or meeting, then you can go through and select. So you can, for instance, here's attend the Grand Lodge communication. So you're going to Grand Lodge in July, establishing that annual operating budget. So let's just do something here. So as a lodge, yeah, guys, we're going to go to Grand Lodge. We can do that. And so we're going to click it, and it's going to check. And it's doing all our calculations at the top there. So some guy goes through, and he says, "Hey, I can distribute 3 written communications." So great, let's check that out. Oops. So let's go back to the Grand Lodge. So we say the brother. So the brother is Fred. And then down here, the brother is Cameron. And then visit a tiled meeting. Yes, we can do that as well. And so this will be Fred, Cameron, Graham, and blood donor clinics. Yeah, yes, we go to that. We've got quite a few guys that go to that regular. And this will be Lauren. See, we left you in there, Lauren. So now we would go through that and say, well, tell us about what do we have to do for 3 written communications? Well, we click on it. See we got a little hand there that says you can click on it. And then we go here. So as you can see, Cameron's name was in there. So here's first, second, and third communication. So because the statement is the lodge distributes at least 3 written communications. So there's places to fill in your date, subject for first communications, second communications, and third communications. And so that is the format that all of the standards have in them. So up here, we're going to look at this, distribute 3 written communications. So it says lodge distributes at least 3, a newsletter or flyer directly to its membership, or post the same to the lodge social media group or website promoting, announcing lodge activities. So that is the object of that is the object of this. That's what you have to do for this standard. Now, notes to lodge and DDGM. So if those who have participated in the old program, you did have to have backup documentation. And here it does as well. So it's telling you, excuse me, please. It's telling you what sort of copies you need to validate this. Forwarding lodge minutes electronically. No, so you'll want to send the document. It's for forwarding correspondence from outside the lodge does not qualify. So these are notes, and each of them have particular requirements. So we'll go back to our selection process.
So Fred, just before you could you open that back up again? The one piece there. So just correct me if I'm wrong, but so Cameron, the idea of these PDF forms to begin with was purely to try and get away from one guy having to sit and write copious notes and then try and copy them onto something else, send them in an email, all the rest of it. You can record everything that you're doing in these PDF files and forward the PDF files instead of going through all that other stuff. So it's really trying to make this a much easier application for the lodges and the person who's designated to run that for the lodge. Now, in these areas where notes for the comments, Fred, I would be correct in saying that you can copy and paste a flyer into that area. Would that be correct?
No, I would submit the copy as an attachment.
So it would be better to do that as a.
You can, unless it's just print. So if you've got a flyer that's just print, yes, you can copy that print and paste it there.
Right. So, and that was the point. So with a newsletter as well, you could just copy the newsletter and sort of the print area of the newsletter and just put it in there, and it would show you. Sure. It would show the person who's going to be allocated to mark this. They would be able to see the various things that you've done in there, correct?
Correct, yeah. Right. Now, okay, that's okay. Perfect. Questions or questions? It has here Brother Cameron. So this is the brother who's going to drive this. So in this lodge's, Cameron is going to drive it, and once he's done, he can just submit the date that he's finished it, and then this, along with the backup documents, if you have any, can be sent off to the district deputy or his designate in that area, and he will look it over, see how it is, and then send it back approved and date it. And I'll show you that on your on the report card, which is where that is. Now, what was I going to say here? So we can go back. You see me flipping back and forth. So there's links again, so you can. Well, what about visit a tiled regular meeting? Now, just you know, as a sidebar here, once this is done, this particular one is completed and all filled out properly, and any documentation, if they say up here any documentation is required, then that's sent off again to the deputy or his designate and comes back. The old way was waiting till the end of your 2-year cycle and then putting them all together with all of their supporting documents and everything and sending them out. And, you know, that was not a fun process. So now we have get it done, send it, and that's completed once your district deputy or designate acknowledges that it is, yes, valid and complete. So, you know, myself, I'm our district deputy's designate for London West, and they do send things back because, you know, they don't quite meet. But one of the nice things about this new system, etc., is that the old way, it was the Cornerstone Committee who marked all the sheets. And they don't know the lodges. So there will be a Cornerstone Committee who lives in Sarnia, and he's marking a member, he's marking a Cornerstone submission, a whole book, you know, this thick, on a lodge, say in Northern Ontario. So he's got no personal connection with the lodges in that district. And, you know, you can sort of see when, you know, something does meet the requirements. It's not just, you know, a paper. Obviously, you want to put it on paper, and you do want to fill it all in properly, et cetera, but, you know, there may be times, yes, I remember that. I was at that. And yeah, everything fills out good. Yeah, that makes sense. But it might not make sense if the person who's marking it is in Sarnia and somebody's way up north, the lodge is way up north. So, and go back to there. So there you have, and over here, this checkbox here, it means it has a completion in year one component. For instance, within the scope of your 2-year Cornerstone program, you have to do year 1 and year 2. So that's all it's telling you. It's a reminder. Get it done. So lodge operating budget, you need a budget for each year 1, year 2. So if the end of your second year has come along and you've finished your second budget, but you haven't done your first, then, you know, could be problems for you, and we wouldn't want to see that.
Fred, could you just click on the 4.1 with the attend the Grand Lodge communication? If you could just click on that, just to show. So in the document here, you can see clearly that, again, and this is one thing that we want to try and emphasize to the lodges, right? So Fred's name's on this particular piece. We want lodges not to have one person running this entire program. We want the one person to be in charge, if you like, or be responsible for the program.
Yeah.
But the idea of Cornerstone being a team building exercise is that we utilize lots of people within the lodge to do various things. So Fred has been picked to do this particular thing, and all he has to do is make sure that's completed. And when it's completed, he lets the Cornerstone chair of his lodge know that that's completed and it can be sent in. You'll see through this form here that you can see clearly that we have year one, and it's a requirement. What is it? The requirement is you just scroll up a little bit so I can see that again. A minimum of 4 lodge members must participate in each of the 2 years of the Grand Lodge. But in either case, let me see. So in either case, one of the 4 people must be the worshipful master, the senior warden, or junior warden, right? So here we've already put in the worshipful master, the junior warden, senior warden. So you just simply have to put their names in there, and any additional brethren go in the other box. It's really quite simplistic to use. Fred, could you just, out of curiosity, just fill in a couple of names there and just show how easy that is to do?
Couple of names. Well, yep. I gave myself a raise.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, you know, that's all there is to it. And then you put all your brothers,
And it really is as simple as that, Cameron, right? That's, and I wanted Fred to do that live so that people can see how simple that. This is indicative of all the PDF files, right? This is just an example of how they all work the same way. So it's much easier for the lodge representative to record these things and send them off in real time to the DDGM or his designate.
I'm just going to, yeah. So, you know what? There's been some new standards added, and it's kind of, you know, I'm going to say it's kind of complicated to explain, but here's one. Pre-cycle attendance, and you know what? I'm going to throw numbers out there. So let's say pre-cycle. We've had 25 members. Year 1 attendance, we've had 28. Year 2 attendance, we've had 31. So it will do some math for you along there, so you don't have to figure that out. And then you just put your comments down there. So that's, you know, in my mind, when somebody else can do the math for me, I love it. And then again, just back to the major standards, and then you can go through them. And in my mind, it's a pretty simple document, but for those who are not electronically minded, you can print all this out and just use the paper documents and fill them out as you like. But you know, if you parse the document, if you break the document down into its different areas, it's really quite simple. You know.
Right, could you do me a favor? See, just you'll notice here on the top of the page what it shows on the top of page 2 there, Fred, where you have the counter.
Okay.
If you just go down a bit. Yeah, if you just scroll down the page a little bit so I can see that page, right?
I see.
Yeah, stop there. So you'll see at the top here where you can see that we've chosen 5, right? And none of them are complete, right? It says at the end here, left to do 5. Just click the box for the Grand Lodge. See, so you have in real time, you can see a counter at the top as you fill this document in that you're going to see that you've actually completed 2,
Yeah.
how many you're left to do, and it gives you an idea so that you're not forgetful in any way. Look, we still have 2 or 3 of these standards to do, right? So I just wanted to make sure that people could see that.
Right. Now you're going to see when we move over to the report card document, it's sort of more or less the same, and because of the technical size, we don't want to put them together with this here document. So I'm going to stop. Any questions on this, Cameron or Graham? Further?
No, I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay.
While you're switching the screens and grabbing the report card, I did receive from our departed brother, Lauren McDonald, who wasn't able to join due to technical difficulties, did send me an email while we've been having this recording. And one thing he asked, and I'll perhaps send this over to Graham while Fred grabs the new screen. Fred, you can stop sharing your screen for now.
Okay.
The importance of having Cornerstone be supported or promoted or championed, pick your term, right? Having the Cornerstone program be supported by the local district deputy grand masters and district secretaries. And so, Graham, if you just want to touch on that and just why it's so valuable that our district deputies and grand secretaries champion this program at the district level for all of their lodges.
Okay, so when Cornerstone first started, it was a Grand Lodge jurisdiction-wide program. And as Fred alluded to earlier, there was a Grand Lodge Cornerstone committee that took all these documents after 2 years of work in a pile of documents that went to a committee, and they all read through all of these pieces and tried to figure out, well, as Fred mentioned, I'm in Sarnia and I'm looking at a lodge in North Bay and I don't really know how that lodge works, etc. So Grand Lodge decided, let's move this away from Grand Lodge and move it into the district level. We'll take it to the district level and we'll make it a self-administered program. So basically, we're saying to the lodges, look, you have to be honest about what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and there's nothing to gain by trying to fix the system in any way. You just, when you've done something, you've done it. We take your word that you've done it. And so, because we're now at the district level, it's absolutely paramount that the DDGM administer this program as best possible through his district. This is one of the reasons why we have suggested that all DDGMs appoint a cornerstone designate within their district, because the DDGM has much other work to complete in the district. And if it has a designate who is simply designated to look after Cornerstone, that's going to help him greatly. The DDGM must know, however, that he is ultimately in charge of the administration of the program. So even though he has a designate, he still has to make sure that the designate is doing his job and getting that done. So it really is important that we have buy-in from the DDGMs, buy-in from the district secretaries, buy-in, of course, from the designate, who then goes out in the district that he knows best and contacts the lodges and tries to promote the program as much as possible. And that designate, or the DDGM, whoever decides to run it, is going to know the strongest lodges and the weakest lodges and how he can approach those various lodges in different ways, and what he feels Cornerstone might benefit them more greatly than others, right? So the stronger lodges, he may just have to nudge a little bit and get them involved. The struggling lodges, he's going to have to try and work with them and try and give them as much support as possible. So Cameron, is so important that the DDGMs take this responsibility seriously and make sure that they get the the promotion of Cornerstone out to the lodges and try and get them working as much as possible. Not because he wants to be the DDGM who has, I guess what, I've got 15 of my 16 lodges, they're all designated Cornerstone lodges. I'm a great guy. It's not about that. It's about making sure that the lodges are using the program properly and are gaining the benefit that they're supposed to gain from the program. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah, it's I said that came from Brother Lauren McDonald, and I think it kind of goes back to that idea of optimism we talked about, right? You kind of need your optimism at the lodge level, and you need it at your district level as well. You want a district deputy grand master and a district secretary and whoever gets appointed in these roles of different committee chairs to be optimistic as well about some of these programs and encouraging lodges to take a look at it. And right, if a lodge feels like maybe a lodge feels like there's nothing in Cornerstone for them, right, then it's kind of up to your leadership above them, such as the district deputy, to perhaps encourage them and be optimistic and champion this idea that take another look or give it a shot, or be a cheerleader for some of these things that come out, whether it be Cornerstone or the new site or whatever it is, right? Kind of being a cheerleader for some of these programs can be so helpful in encouraging a lodge to get started.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you go, Fred.
Okay, my particular district deputy, he's done fabulous. So like Cornerstone is the top of his list. It's at the top of his list because every lodge where it's either his fraternal or official visit, he is pumping Cornerstone. Now, we don't have as fantastic numbers as Graham's district does. 15 of 16 was it? Congratulations on that.
No, that's Lorne. That's actually Lorne's district. Yeah,
Lorne's district. I'm sorry.
Very good success rate. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, we're about 75%. We were, I think, 3 before, but it's climbed. But between getting out with the district deputy on his official visits and the pumping that he does, again, we're at 75, and I expect that we'll get the other holdouts as well, before the year is out. So, buy-in from the district deputy is maybe not paramount, but it sure goes a long way in pushing the program within the districts.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that the district deputy grand master of St. Lawrence district is a big proponent of Cornerstone, and he has worked closely with Lorne to try and get those lodges engaged, right? Yep. So to have 14 out of 16 lodges, I think it is involved, is fantastic, right? When I was DDGM of Hamilton District B back in 2015, I had 100% buy-in on Cornerstone, and they all achieved their designation at that time, and that was because I felt the need for that program, and I pushed the program constantly, and I was energized about the program. So that goes to Cameron's point, when the DDGM is picking a guy to be his designate, he doesn't necessarily need to pick the most senior ranking officer.
No, absolutely.
Right? That's not necessarily the guy that you pick. You want to have maybe even give one of the younger guys, get him involved in there, who's got a bit of he's vibrant himself, and he can promote this, and he's energized about the program, and his energy will translate to the lodges. This is what we want. These are the people we want champion Cornerstone.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So shall we have a quick look at the report card?
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say, let's take a look at the report card now, which is kind of the second stage in this process after you've finished all of your requirements and recorded them and gone through the PDFs.
Okay. Thank you, Cameron. As you can see, there are 3 pages in the file. It's a lot more, it looks a lot more complicated than it is. So 3 pages, this instruction page, which I'll briefly go through, workbook page and the report card itself. So in the, you fill in the pertinent information for your particular lodge. This is the important one: Cornerstone start date and end date. And it's for a 2-year cycle. And if I was to, there's some flexibility here. If I was to start my lodge with Cornerstone today on November 19th, and our typical year is September to August, then there's probably stuff that we've done. So during my year 1, I would put the start date back to September 1st, 2023 in this case, and go to August 31st, 2025. So it's got that 2-year cycle. Now, once you've done it, save it. Save. That's what computer knobs will tell you. Save your work, save your work, save your work. Now, I've put some things in here, separate report card from this workbook.
I can just, as a podcaster and somebody who does a lot of stuff, I can confirm, save your work. Nothing is more annoying than editing a podcast or doing something in writing and then finding out you forgot to save it. You got to restart, especially when it's 2 a.m. So save your work.
Save your work, yes. Especially if it's been a grind to get to the point you're at. So when you submit your standard, enter the date it's completed, check the completed box, save this file. Send your standard paperwork with all supporting documents and your report card to your DD or his designate. Once it is approved by him, he will date your report card and return it to you. Once all of your chosen standards are completed, your DD will have to sign the bottom of the report card. Oh, there it is again. Save this file. So here we have a worksheet. So much like I was saying before when we were filling out your standards worksheet, this is another one, but this does not include the actual standard and all of its filling out. It's basically just what to do. So first off, we start putting our lodge name, Ashlar, and it'll come up there 610, and then that'll come up there London West. And the lodge coordinator, Fred, his telephone, his email, and the start date. What did I see there? 09-01-2023, and it will be 08-31-2025. And then we can go through that, friend to friend. So again, this is the worksheet. So I'm going to show you because hang on, let's click a couple of these. They completed. Being a worksheet, we're going to move to the report card. So let's go down to the report card sheet. So you can see they have been filled out. So it says up here, report card. And again, you can fill out, or you can print the blank forms, fill them in, write them in. Then you'd have to get them to your district deputy or designate, through snail mail or drop it off or something like that. This just makes it so much easier to send as an attachment. Okay, so we've got this guy completed. So once it's sent to the DD, or let's just say DD, okay, instead of district deputy grand master or designate. We'll say district deputy, and then we'll mean him or just designate, just to shorten the conversation up. So we send to the district deputy. He it's completed 01/01/2023, and then we send it to the district deputy, and
The next one.
whoops, all right. So then he puts the date there and sends it back. And there's tallies at the top, like in other sheets. So then once you've gone through it all, and then again, there's your, oh no, this is not again, this is first time. So here, the district deputy for year 1, district deputy for year 2. And, you know, your lodge may be split in 2 by district deputy's term. So just leave it to yourselves, whichever district deputy. I would think the final, who is the man who is in office when you finished it and submitted it and got it, and just type his name and date in there. Okay, so these links won't go anywhere, so that's a good reason to use that other one we looked at earlier. And you know, send the whole package off. Don't worry about extracting the report card if you're not so inclined. If you're so inclined, extract it and then work with that extracted one. But remember, save, save, save. Always save, save, save. And now, just as a word of warning, this will work in Adobe Acrobat. I'm using Acrobat 11, and it should work in most Acrobat Adobe products, but third party, I have no guarantee this reset form or extract or print will work. So for you computer people out there, you'll know what I'm talking about, and we did our best. So any questions on this, brothers?
Well, I think your best is definitely very, very good.
Thank you.
And as someone who's been involved in Cornerstone, my lodge, my mother lodge received the Cornerstone designation the first year it was available. Tom Moffat was integral, or Tom was integral in that. So, I mean, I think it's always been an excellent program. I think the changes that have been made make it a lot better, especially in terms of the administration of the program, which was always, you know, the major challenge with it, right? For any program, gathering the documentation, sending it off. And I think this is a far better approach. And I know it took a lot of work to organize everything. So, you know, I think we're done with the screen sharing. I don't think we need it anymore, unless there's anything else on this form you want to show.
Graham, anything for you?
No, I'm fine with that. What you've shown it so far, yeah. It's a very simplistic form.
It is,
and we encourage lodges to, you know, take that form and play around with it and figure out how it works and make as many mistakes as you like. And when you're finished, if you go to the top left-hand corner there, you see that, you just click reset. It resets the whole form, so you can go and actually do it for real. So, you know, open the form up, play with it. Once you're comfortable with it, then save the form.
Yeah. And again, worst comes to worst, you know, if you can always download a fresh copy from Grand Lodge if you muck this one up beyond a point of no return. Hopefully, God forbid, that it hasn't been filled out with information that you cannot retrieve from somewhere and input again. So that's yes. Okay, yeah. Stopping the share.
Yeah, you know, I'm a firm believer in the I guess Silicon Valley approach to life: fail often, fail quickly. You know, just don't make the same failures twice. I like what Graham, you said, right? It's okay to make mistakes, right? Like, just try it out. You can make mistakes. The form, you can clear the form, and if you send it off and there are mistakes in it, then the DDGM will catch it. But don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think I do not suffer from this problem, which is probably a bad thing. But I do think in some Masonic circles, or not, with some lodges or some Masons, it's in some cases you have we talked about it earlier, right? The kind of this pessimism, but in some, it's almost this fear of making a mistake. They'd almost rather not try than try and either not be successful or make the mistake.
Yeah.
And I've always, as somebody who has a lot of experience with failure, I've never really understood that philosophy. If there's a program, even if you try and you don't get the designation, at least you tried, and hopefully, so long as you learn from what went well and also what didn't go well, you can always just try again a couple of years down the road, right? So just give it a shot, and there's no harm. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. You just try again and fix it.
Yeah. On you go, Fred.
If I could say just one last thing about the forms, in Masonry and my previous life in scouting, there's a term that says, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. And that really holds true, because sometimes that's your nature, right? But some of us can be so busy that some things might take a back seat to something else that's more important. But if you have not heard back if you've submitted a standard and haven't heard back from your district deputy within a week, just send them a little nudge. How did it look? Sometimes some of us need that, and it is appreciated. It's not frowned upon.
Well, and I think that really goes into, I talked earlier, I had this conversation with Most Worshipful Brother Cameron Bailey. Another thing we talked about outside of pessimism and versus the need for optimism was, as a secretary myself, sometimes I almost feel as though I'm oversharing or over communicating. But as you pointed out, so a secretary, a Cornerstone chairman in a lodge may feel like he doesn't want to be a bother to the district deputy, or he doesn't want to be a bother to the designate. But yeah, if you don't hear anything, the district deputy probably would be happy to get your email, because, like you said, district deputies are busy. They have their Masonic commitments, then they just have their life commitments, and it's very possible for things to end up at the bottom of an email list or get pushed back more and more. And I think, I take the approach of, if you feel like you're communicating too much, communicate more, because you're probably, you may feel like you've told people 50 times about something, but they have so many things in their life, they may not have got the message those other 49 times. And I think that's true. Yeah. Don't be afraid. And this goes for secretaries as well. If you're a member of a lodge and you haven't heard from your secretary in a while, or maybe you haven't got a summons in a little bit, don't be afraid to get in touch, because any number of things could happen, and keeping that communication open between membership and secretaries, between membership and masters, and between, at Cornerstone chairman and the district deputy, I think is so important. So communicate, and then communicate again.
Yeah.
Just on these PDF fillable forms, Cameron, the whole premise behind these was to expedite the whole process, right? So in the past, you sent an entirety of the program to be marked, and that took a long time. Now, once you complete one component, you send that in immediately to get it mapped off as being done. So in real time, a DDGM or his designate can open that file, see it, read it, see it's okay, click open the report card, date it, send it back. And that could be done in the space of 5 minutes, right? It's as quick as that, right? We're taking the lodge on their word that a lot of these things that they're doing. So they really are only looking at what the lodge has said, this is what we've completed. The DDGM looks at it, yep, that looks good. Or if it doesn't look good, they can get back to them right away as well. But there's no reason with the way this is set up for anybody to take any time and getting back to a lodge. It should simply be open, viewed, mapped, returned, all in a space of 5 minutes or so. Would you agree with that, Fred? It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's, you know what, those forms actually just started out as a time saver for me, because I had 2 lodges that I was administering Cornerstone in. So, you know, it was just frustrating going through, you know, the old way. So,
anyway, you know, without sort of, I don't know if we need to go on too much longer with everything, but I think suffice to say that the Cornerstone Committee will be hosting in the near future a couple of workshops on these PDF forms so that we can try and instruct them in real time how to use them, the lodges and the DDGMs for that matter as well. So, Cameron, you know, thanks very much for your time today. I think we've kind of covered different aspects of Cornerstone. We've shown them how some of these forms work, and hopefully they get something from this podcast and they can make it to good use.
Yeah. Well, something that would be nice for them to get from this podcast. Oh,
yeah, it doesn't work with your background.
Oh, shoot.
So it's I'm guessing it's all save. There you go. Save. I agree that is very good advice for life and for this Cornerstone project. If you're an Ontario Mason, keep an eye out. Bug your district deputy. Bug whoever you have to bug. Keep an eye out for the information workshops and information. Just keep an eye out for the information, because even if you're relatively new to Masonry, maybe you want to try to get your lodge Cornerstone status or be involved, and so this is a great chance to learn. If you're a Mason but you're not from Ontario, you know what? I bet you with the email address provided and stuff, maybe you'll be interested in some jurisdictions have similar programs. I know that when Cornerstone was created, Grand Lodge looked at a few different jurisdictions, but if you're in a jurisdiction that doesn't have this type of program, or you're not aware of it, try to take a look at some of this stuff, because maybe you can take some of this information and bring it to your district and create your own type of program, and encourage your lodge to look at it, right? Because the beautiful thing about the nature of Freemasonry, and I think one of its great strengths, is we're all brothers, we're all connected through Freemasonry, but you have the 50 jurisdictions in the States, or not, I think 51 actually, 51, and then you have the jurisdictions in Canada. So that means, a Grand Lodge can try something in the Grand Lodge of Florida can try something, and if it works well, other lodges, other districts or jurisdictions can learn about it and try to take some of those things. And same thing, I think the Cornerstone's a great program. I think what the committee's done has been wonderful. So if you're in a different jurisdiction, take a look at it, because there's a lot to learn there and a lot that you can take advantage of.
Yeah. Just on a parting note, if I can, Cameron, I was at a lodge a couple of nights ago, and we were talking about when new members come into the lodge, how we have to try and attract them and keep them motivated in some way within the lodge. Cornerstone strikes me as being the perfect tool to engage the new brethren in your lodge. Once you get someone in there, everybody seems to think that the best way to engage the new Mason is to give them a piece of work to do, right? A piece of ritual to learn. But perhaps if you have Cornerstone in play, maybe you you assign him with another brother, or actually give him one thing to try and do on his own and show him how to do it. And then he's immediately involved in the lodge. So Cornerstone has many, many aspects to it. And that's just one of them. But the whole concept of Cornerstone, more than anything, is that whole all-encompassing of bringing all the brethren together to work for something that they can all see together is going to make the lodge much more successful and vibrant.
Absolutely.